Well, we're back in the kitchen today here on Oklahoma Gardening, and we have Dr. Barbara Brown back with us. Thanks again.
Steve.
Many of you are starting to see a lot of pumpkins showing up in the grocery store this time of year, and we also grew some at our Oklahoma Gardening studio gardens, and we grew some Jack B. Little, some ornamental. We also grew the larger prize-winning, and we grew some autumn gold that we'd like to use for pumpkins. So, Dr. Brown, show us what we can use our pumpkins for.
Well, the first thing we're going to have to do is figure out how to get the meat out of there, and there's several ways to do this. I found that the easiest way is to lay it on its side like this, and then basically slice it in half this way. If you carve the top out of it like you would if you were making a jack-o'-lantern, you've got a smaller area there to get your hand in and out to get the seeds and the strings out. So if you just cut the whole thing in half, then you don't have to worry about quite the confined quarters that you might.
You want me to try that then?
Yeah. We also scored it a little bit to make it easier to get the knife lined up. And
By
then
scoring it, we're just moving it back and forth, starting the...
Yeah, we're making a small line that we can then follow the knife in so that the knife isn't going to tip over or something while we're working. And tapping it as you are makes it a little bit easier to get the carving started. You're still going to have to use some brute force to get the whole thing cut in half, but pumpkin don't tend to have as hard of a rind as some of the other kinds of squash, so that they're not too tough to cut in half. You could cut it in half vertically rather than horizontally, but then you've got to go through the stem end, which can be a little bit more tough. And then, of course, there's the old part. Looks like we've got some of these seeds sprouting in here, actually. Taking the strings out and the seeds out, and that just takes a little bit of time and a little bit of effort.
Now, what about the seeds? Those can be used as well.
Those can be used. If people are interested in learning a way to cook those, they can write in for the recipe or call their county extension office and get a copy of the recipes that we're using today, and cooking the seeds will be on there as well. But if you're going to cook them, you need to get all those strings away from them, and that's going to take a little bit of time, and it's a good project for kids. Keeps them busy this time of year.
So once we get the insides out,
once those insides are out, then you take this, turn it over in a baking pan, as we've done it here, put it in a 350-degree oven for somewhere between 45 minutes, 60 minutes, depending on the size of the pumpkin, of course. And when you can stick a knife in it, it comes out easily, stick the knife in easily, then it's done. This one we did ahead of time, so it's cold enough to touch now. Before you work with it, you want to let it cool down a little bit. Then you can easily take the meat out of the pumpkin and use it for your recipe. Now, one thing about pumpkin is that it can be kind of juicy because it's got a high water content, so that if it's got more water in it than what you're going to use it for would need, such as pumpkin pie, you don't want excessive water, put it in a colander or some kind of a strainer and let it drain for a while, and then you can go ahead and use it from there. It makes it a little bit easier.
Now, one question on the baking dish, did you spray that with some kind of nonstick?
I did before I cooked it. It wouldn't really have to be. Some of the larger pumpkins also, it's kind of hard to find a baking dish big enough, and so I ended up using a big granite roaster, which is why this turned a little bit darker on the edge, because it's got a dark surface on the bottom.
Okay.
We're going to try something today with our pumpkin that the other half. You get about a cup of pumpkin for every pound that you start with cooked. Now what we've got here, and I'll let you go ahead and try mixing, is 1 cup of the strained pumpkin. And if you find it's a little bit stringy, one thing you can do is put it in a food processor for a little while. There's 2 basic kinds of pumpkins. The field pumpkins, which are the kind that tend to get real large, and they tend to have less meat on the shell. They tend to be a little bit stringier. They make excellent jack-o'-lanterns. Then there is a pie pumpkin type. They tend to have a thicker, sweeter shell to them, or meat to them, and they also have a finer texture, so they work a little bit better for pies. Okay, now into this we're going to add 1/3 of a cup of brown sugar, 1/2 a teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/4 a teaspoon of ginger, and 1/8 a teaspoon of cloves, and those are all combined together. Now go ahead and use this and blend those together as best you can. Sometimes you might use a mixer when you're making a pumpkin pie. That really isn't necessary. Basically, what we are doing here is making a pumpkin pie. The difference here is that we're not going to cook it in a shell. And pumpkin is very high in nutrition. It's got a lot of vitamin A in it. It's very high in potassium. Again, like the squash we talked about last week, it's got more potassium in it than a banana would. So it's an alternative for those people that are interested in that. A lot of people that are on taking high blood pressure medicine and so are concerned about that.
Plus, you're letting me use brown sugar.
I'm letting you use brown sugar, sweeten it up just a little bit. We're also going to have you add a couple of eggs. And you could beat these a little bit ahead of time if you chose. And if you're worried about cholesterol, you could use an egg substitute for that. And blend those in real real well so that you don't have a piece of cooked white sitting over here, which particularly the string part of on a white can sometimes put kids off in particular. Now, the thing that's going to make this one a little bit different, it's a pumpkin rice pudding. So we're going to add some instant rice. It's a third of a cup of instant rice.
And it's not cooked or anything?
No, it's not cooked. It will cook during the baking time. And a fourth of a cup of raisins.
Okay.
And then we're also going to add to this 1.5 cups of milk.
Okay.
Now, normally you would put a pumpkin pie in a crust, and that crust will protect it from the heat around the oven. As that heat comes in, it causes the proteins to denature and causes it to thicken. But if the heat is too intense without the crust, it also causes it to coagulate and to curdle, and you get the separation where the liquid comes out on the side, which is not something that we want. So since we're not going to use a crust this time, let's see if I can borrow that again. We're going to pour it into a baking dish. And then that baking dish is then going to still need some protection from the heat so that we don't have those problems that I just mentioned. Now, in order to do that, we're going to put that inside of another pan. And then I would recommend that you put this in the oven. We're going to bake it at 325. Have the oven preheated. Put that in the oven on the oven shelf, and then pour hot water up to about an inch depth on the outside in the outside pan. You could do it here, but then wobbling it to the stove since it's hot water and it's going to be a little bit heavier up to drop it at that point.
And again, refresh everybody's memory why we're doing that.
It's to keep the proteins from overcoagulating as the heat comes in off the oven, and it keeps them in a little bit better condition than it would otherwise.
So it's an improvement of the texture. Does it have anything to do with our nutritional value?
It won't, other than the fact that if it gets overcooked and it gets all oily and watery, people aren't going to eat it as much, and so the nutritional value is lost if you don't eat something. Okay. So that it helps more with the quality of the product, and it ends up getting you a something like a pumpkin pie where you slice it and it all holds together.
Okay.
Whereas without the protection from the heat, it's going to be more apt to be kind of lumpy and fall apart and not be as good a product. This goes in the oven for 15 minutes at 325. Then you open the oven door and you stir the whole thing together because it's going to start to thicken up with the eggs in there, and the milk will also start to thicken up. And when you stir it at that point, the raisins will come up off the bottom and the rice will go down from the top, and it'll give you a better blended product. You put it back in the oven for about 30 minutes to 45 minutes, depending on the size of your dish and how well your oven works and so on. When it's done, you'll be able to stick a knife in the center and it'll come out clean, the same way you would test a pumpkin pie. So that it works out real well. It gives you all the nutrition that a pumpkin pie would without some of the fat that the pumpkin pie has to offer. We did one up ahead of time so that you'd get a chance to see what they look like. Notice that I did this one in a smaller size casserole. If you wanted to do it, you could even do it in small custard cups so everybody would have their own serving rather than in the large dish. You would need to adjust the baking time. It's probably going to take about half the baking time than it would otherwise in the smaller custard size.
That's real a nice color and texture too.
Yeah, it gives it a little bit something different, but it's still got the sweetness that a pumpkin pie
So
would
I get
have.
to sample.
You get to try it, yeah.
Okay.
Again, hot or cold, however you like pumpkin pie. Pumpkin pie tends to be a little bit better if it's cooled down at room temperature than it is when it's real warm.
Well, now, Barbara, how can they get the recipe?
They can call their county extension office, or they can write Oklahoma Gardening, and we'll have the recipes here that they can send.
And just like we'd always like you to send a stamped self-addressed envelope, too. Let me show you some alternatives. We talked about alternatives for using the pumpkins. Here are a couple of Cuban pumpkins called calabaza, and these came in from Homestead, Florida, from J. Brooks Company. And we can actually grow these in our home garden as well. It'd be the same uses. We can carve them, use them just like you did here. The only difference is they're more of a different species of pumpkin, and they're used more in the ethnic groups. But we can grow these here, and this is something that we might try as an alternative. You'd grow it just like you would your regular pumpkins. Plant them, after the chance of frost. It takes about 3 months for them to ripen, and they store pretty good as well. And these are available in some of the grocery stores too. So we've got an alternative on our pumpkins and a little different idea on cooking them too. So thank you again. We'll hope you'll come back and show us some other alternatives here on Oklahoma Gardening.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.